Guys, it's time to take another look at the Duesenberg Les Trem, but this time we're taking it to another level. Earlier this year, I posted a video where I chronicled my experiences trying out the Duesenberg Les Trem II for the first time. When I did that experiment, I was impressed with the doozy's ease of installation, ease of use, and great feel. This is an upgrade that is so easy to perform on any guitar with a stop tailpiece using only basic tools that almost anybody can do it. Additionally, unlike a Bigsby style tremolo installation, this system requires no permanent modifications to your guitar, preserving your guitar's value. That video was one of the first videos I ever made, and yet somehow has been and continues to be my most popular video. I still get comments on this video weekly. People asking questions, making recommendations, of course criticizing my methods. I mean, this is the internet. Agreeing or disagreeing with my conclusions, etc. Because of the overwhelming response to this video, I felt it necessary to do a follow-up video where I addressed some of the issues brought up in the comments of that video. Actually, I'm going to do one better than that. Today, I'm going to start a two-part video mini-series where I eventually try every suggestion made in the comments of that video. That's right, you and I were going down the YouTube rabbit hole together. Look, no one really had complaints about the quality or construction of the Les Trem, nor did anyone have problems with my method of installation. Most of the complaints, questions, and suggestions were regarding tuning stability, and with good reason. If a guitar can't be trusted to remain in tune, well, then that guitar can't be trusted to be used in live situations. As I have mentioned in a previous video, a guitar's tuning stability isn't determined by just one factor. A guitar is a precisely balanced, complicated amalgam of science and engineering. There are a number of factors that contribute to tuning stability. Tuning stability, it's kind of like an NFL football team. In football, one great player can't win an NFL football game all by himself. But one bad player can make a tremendously boneheaded play that results in the entire team losing the game. That's kind of the same way it is with a guitar. There isn't one perfect Goldilocks component that's going to guarantee perfect tuning stability. However, if you have one really bad part, even on a guitar that's loaded full of high quality components, it can sabotage the whole thing. For this series, I have two things up my sleeve for you guys. First, I've reinstalled the Duesenberg Les Trem II on my ES-335 Epiphone, and I've also added two of the most requested, yet still very simple upgrades that you can do to try to improve tuning stability. To find out which ones, you gotta stay tuned. In my next follow-up video, I'm gonna take this guitar, which has the worst tuning stability of any guitar I've ever seen, and we're going to throw every mod at it that I can think of. After that, we're going to properly service and set up the tremolo, set up the guitar, and get everything working properly. All of this is in order to answer the question, can a guitar return to pitch when using the tremolo? I'm really excited and interested to see how this turns out, and if you want to see how it turns out too, you got to hit that subscribe button and tune in next time. This guitar is really beautiful and it sounds amazing. You guys are going to have to check it out next time. But let's get started today talking about my ES-335, the upgrades we're doing, why they're important, and what those parts are trying to accomplish. The first ingredient in this recipe is the guitar. Sometimes people forget that a crucial component of getting your guitar to play and stay in tune is the guitar itself. Sometimes there are guitars where the material and or craftsmanships are so poor that it makes it almost impossible to get that guitar to play in tune, no matter what you do. Swapping out components and hardware would be like putting lipstick on a pig. In these cases, you need to address the playability issues of the guitar before you can address tuning stability. In this case, I have an exceptionally well-made Epiphone ES-335. This guitar comes from Epiphone's revamped, inspired by Gibson line. And they just did everything right on this guitar. From the tuners, to the frets, to the inlays, to the binding, to the finish, to the pickups, to the electronics, to the hardware, to the color. I mean, honestly, this was the first guitar that I've ever owned that I didn't feel the need to upgrade any part on. I took this guitar to a jam a few weeks ago along with 3 other guitars. Okay, I might have a problem. But anyway, this guitar was the one that was getting comments from the other people there about how good it sounded. The second factor is the tremolo system itself. If you just staple on any old piece of junk that you find lying around to your guitar, you can't expect it to perform well. You should expect to get what you pay for. In this case, we have a very high quality tremolo system made by Duesenberg called the Les Trem II. This trem system was brilliantly engineered to install in less than 5 minutes and require no drilling or permanent modifications to your guitar. In addition to that, the quick response and smooth operation of the trem provides an excellent user experience and performance that is much closer to that of like a Stratocaster than that of like maybe a Bigsby or similar style tremolo. Look, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about how to install the Les Trem. I have another video about that. But also, there's almost nothing to it. You remove the strings, you remove the stop tailpiece, you remove the studs, then you figure out which mounting screws are the correct ones. Duesenberg sends 2, a metric and standard. Then you position the Les Trem in place. Then you use the correct studs to securely install the trim. The tremolo arm slips through the hole. You use a set screw to put that in place. Then you position your tremolo arm where you want it, and you're done. It's so easy, like even you could do it. That's basically it. The next major upgrade that we're going to be adding to this guitar, and one that a lot of people asked about, is to address the tune-o-matic bridge. Look, when you use a tremolo on a guitar with a tune-o-matic bridge, the strings actually slide back and forth over the saddles while you're using the whammy bar. When they do, you're fighting the friction. Friction is always the enemy of tuning stability in any guitar, and it's even more so on one equipped with a tremolo. Often we might try to treat the saddles to make sure the string glides over them more smoothly. That's not what we're doing here today. Today, I'm going to attempt to reduce or even eliminate friction at the bridge completely by replacing the tune-o-matic bridge altogether with a fully adjustable roller bridge. There are several different types of roller bridges available, and I've tried a few with varying success. I like the look of this one online, so I figured I'd give it a shot. If you're unfamiliar with this style of bridge, it basically borrows the design elements of the tune-o-matic bridge, but then replaces the steel saddles with adjustable rollers that function as bearings for your strings to effortlessly glide over. As I alluded to earlier, the intent of this piece of hardware is to help reduce the amount of friction your strings experience as they move over the saddles. The idea is that if they experience less friction moving over your saddles while using the vibrato, then hopefully there's a greater chance that they will return to zero, so to speak, while using the arm. A roller bridge installs very easily, if all goes according to plan. You simply remove your strings from your guitar, then remove your tune-o-matic bridge, then you replace the roller bridge on the old posts. However, in order for a roller bridge to function properly, you need to ensure that a few critical areas are properly dialed in. In short, you want to ensure that the things that shouldn't move aren't moving, and the things that should move are moving freely. I find it's best to start from the body and work up. One thing that you may consider is that sometimes when you use the vibrato, the bridge can rock forward and back during use, and we don't want that. We want the only rock to be the stuff that comes from our fingers. Because of this, it might be a good idea to put a wrap or two of Teflon tape, like they use for like plumbing and stuff, on the studs that thread into the guitar. Some Teflon tape can help those inserts to thread in securely and stay put during use. In many cases, the new roller bridge itself will then fit right on the old posts without any additional fuss. However, in some cases, you may have some additional work to do. For example, the new bridge holes in the new bridge may be a different size than the bridge posts on the old studs. If this is the case, you would have to replace the threaded support studs with new ones that have different size posts. But that's pretty rare. In my case, neither the old studs nor the replacement studs that came with the new bridge had a very tight fit with the bridge post holes, which was resulting in the bridge like wiggling around a lot. Well, I just cut some shims out of a piece of paper and wrapped them around the bridge posts. That resulted in the new bridge seating down firmly when it was seated and having zero play. The last thing to check before moving on is the rollers themselves. You want to check that each roller moves freely and easily. On this bridge, only 2 were able to spin freely out of the package. Fortunately, the rollers pop out easily of the saddles and can be inspected individually. I found that the rollers spun freely on the support bars, so I didn't think that that was the problem. I concluded that the problem must have been that the rollers didn't have adequate room to roll on the saddles themselves. So I popped out the rollers one at a time, and I used a small square-shaped file to widen the slot on both sides of the saddle, testing the fit occasionally as I went until each roller was able to spin freely. Once I was completely done dialing in the roller bridge, including adding the Teflon tape to the support studs, adding the shim to the bridge posts, and widening some of the saddle slots for the rollers to spin, the bridge is now rock solid with no movement or play at all when I use the tremolo arm, and that allows the rollers to do their job. The rollers spin freely, and we should see some serious tuning improvement. Another hardware upgrade that a lot of people asked about was the installation of the String Butler by Dietrich Parts. I first heard about the String Butler from watching Daryl Braun's channel, where he showcased some of what it can do. The String Butler was designed to try to correct one of the biggest design problems of guitars that have 3x3 headstock tuners. Most guitars that have a 3x3 headstock tuner design have the tuners in an almost straight line, and this results in the D and the G strings having a pull-through angle that is, in some cases, so severe that it almost even touches the middle center tuning shafts. This pull-through angle, combined with the headstock tilt-back angle, that can add up to a lot of friction between the strings and the nuts. In many cases, this is friction that those strings are unable to overcome, which leads to these strings, especially the G string, to be out of tune, like a lot. Les Paul style guitars are notorious for this, but realistically, this will happen with any guitar that has a 3x3 headstock tuning design unless someone has taken specific precautions to address the string angle. Like, I get this on my acoustic guitars a lot as well. In a previous video, I talked about how if you have a guitar like this and you have the right tools, you can treat your nut slots to help to fight the inherent flaws of this design and relieve the angle. But the String Butler doesn't look to fight or compensate for the design flaws, but to solve them. by changing the string pull-through angle to be a straight line. This theoretically should greatly reduce tuning problems. The string butler quickly installs onto most 3x3 headstock guitars. The one caveat is that the right side and left side tuners must be mirror images of each other, perpendicular and parallel to each other. So for example, the string butler, it wouldn't work on my new Eastwood Sidejack baritone, but it would work on my Gretsch Electromatic or like my acoustic Taylor guitar. To install, simply loosen the tuner nuts for the high and low E strings, and then remove them, as well as the washers. Once removed, position the string butler so that it avoids your truss rod cover. And I've seen some people online argue about whether the proper installation is to have the V pointed up or down. And actually, I checked on their installation instructions, and it actually works either way. It just depends on what fits your guitar and avoids your truss rod cover. You position the string butler between your high and your low E string tuning posts so that it's evenly spaced. You slip the washers over the tuning shafts, then you drop the threaded nuts down over the shafts through the washers. Thread the nut by hand until they grab, and then get them finger tight. Before tightening them down all the way with a wrench, make sure that the string butler is evenly spaced between the tuner shafts. Tighten the tuner nuts with a wrench, and that's it. Look, right about here, I also took some time to treat the nut slots. First with abrasive cord, although you could use fine mesh sandpaper to ensure that those nut slots were nice and smooth. And then after that, I loaded up the nut slots with lots of graphite from a mechanical pencil. Once these hardware upgrades were done, I proceeded to string up the guitar and follow the steps of a setup like normal. It's very important to remember whenever you change major hardware on your guitar, or even change gauges of string, you're gonna need to redo the setup. So I followed the train method of guitar setup like I've discussed in my other videos. And this helped me to dial in the string height and intonation, which is critical, especially when adding a new bridge. So now that that's all done, let's see what we're left with. How does this work? Is it gonna stay in tune? Was it all worth it? Let's find out. I'm gonna head over to the amp, and I'm gonna do a close-up of the tuner as I do some bends. See how it works out. Okay, let's go over there. Okay, so I'm gonna shoot this video a little different than normal because we're focused on tuning. So I got my amp mic'd like normal, just running straight into my amp, no pedals. And you can see I have it zoomed in close to my tuner, and you can see I have it. I'm just gonna keep my pickup selector in the middle pickup, and he's in tune. He's in tune. My D is in tune. My G is in tune. My B is in tune. My E is in tune. Okay? Okay, that was with mild tremolo. Okay, let's try some more aggressive tremolo. pretty good. Okay, now do a heavy bend. That's gone pretty flat there. I'm just going to give the vibrato just a little bit of a shimmer on the vibrato arm. Basically come back to tune. Okay, so you can see there, I bent the G out of tune by bending really, really high. That was way higher than I would ever normally bend. And it was pretty out of tune, but I was able to get it back in tune by using the vibrato. Let's try some dive bombs. So I'm taking the tremolo arm and touching it all the way to the body. Okay, that's kind of bad. I think if I give it a little wiggle, it'll probably come back. Okay, so it's kind of fighting with it right now. Okay, so we've had a little bit of trouble, so I'm going to tune back up. Now let's try some. I'm gonna try some pulls. This is as far as I can pull it on the whammy bar. Alright guys, what did you think? What is the final verdict? Is the tuning now stable? Is it perfect? Has the sound or tone changed? Has the guitar reached its final form? Am I going to leave these parts on this guitar? Look, I've showed you the results using a very accurate tuner. But I'll tell you what I feel when I play it, because sometimes it's hard to communicate over a video. The tuning stability while playing this guitar has been exceptional. I feel like it returns to pitch after all but the most severe bends or bombs. And even when I do those, I feel like if you give the trim arm a little wiggle afterwards, it goes right back to pitch. It's much more responsive to the little flutters like you might do on a Floyd than it was before. Playing this guitar with these mods just makes it feel really sweet in my hands, and it lets me play really confidently. Additionally, I don't feel like it's changed the tone at all, which would have been a major deal breaker for me. Having said all that, the question arises again. Am I going to leave these parts on this guitar? No. No, I'm not. I have long-term plans for the Les Trem, and the string Butler and roller bridge are going to make a return guest appearance on my in my next video for the Les Paul there. And as I mentioned before, this Les Paul doesn't need any modifications to be a perfect guitar. Isn't that right? Isn't that right? Thank you so much for watching this video to the end. I hope you learned something. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy this kind of content, especially if you want to see if we can redeem this tuning nightmare next time. Last thing I wanted to say before I leave is that I am still looking for a good catchphrase to sign off on my videos with. If you have any good ideas, please leave them in the comments. I'm really looking for help. Until then, catchphrase! Alright guys, have a good one.